Hello everybody, Ben Woodruff here, and in today's video I'm going to share with you a fun story and kind of interesting making of musical instruments that I had not intended on. So a few years ago I got really into making didgeridoos. Now didgeridoos are, many peoples around the world have made didgeridoos and played them, including in South America. The Maya people had a version of this, but the oldest, furthest back that we have is the Aboriginal people of Australia. Now these ancient peoples would make a didgeridoo. Now what they would do, there was a type of termite that would hollow out the inside of a tree. So Aborigines would just go walking along through the forest and try to find a eucalyptus tree that had been eaten out by these termites. And they'd knock on them until they heard a hollow one. Then they would cut it down and they would kind of burn out the inside and make sure there's no more termites in there. And then they would take beeswax. Now beeswax, there's a type of stingless bee in Australia. So you just go find a hive, open it up, and those bees are mad, but they can't do anything. Take some of that beeswax, you make a mouthpiece, and bam, you have a didgeridoo. Really cool instruments. Well, I was making them out of all kinds of things. I was making them out of bamboo, and I was making them out of wood, and I was making them out of water buffalo hide that I would take and shape and then coat it with some epoxies and some resins that make it rock hard, and it's indistinguishable at that point from wood. Everybody thinks it's wood and it's not. So I was making a bunch of them. And I remembered, years ago when I lived in California, there were yuccas, and some of these yucca flower stalks were so big that I would make them into rain sticks. Now, if you're familiar with rain sticks, they're made out of actually normally like a South American species of cactus, and you put all these spikes inside and you put little bits of gravel on. When you move it, it sounds like rain. It's a really beautiful thing. And I used to make these big versions of these out of yucca stalks that were big enough to make didgeridoos. So I remember that and I was thinking, you know what? I want to go down to Arizona and I'm going to find some of these big ones like I used to find in California, some of these yucca stalks, and I'm going to do it. And so I asked some friends in Arizona where to go, and they gave me some directions, and I went, and all the yuccas that I found, the flower stalks, some of them were huge, 5-6 feet tall, but they're really narrow. They're only like that big around. It wasn't big enough to make a rain stick, but not big enough to make a didgeridoo. And I was kind of bummed out. I'd driven all this way. So I turned around and I started coming back. I was driving down the road, and I'm on the freeway, and I look, and about half a mile from the freeway, I see this giant agave stalk. Now, these are two plants that look very similar. Yucca has these leaves that come out in the spiral pattern. Agave is the same way. But agave is very different. Agave is very rich in sugar. It's used to make things like tequila. The core is is harvested and roasted and eaten. And it only flowers once. So yucca will, as long as it's alive, it'll keep shooting off flower stalks every year. Agave grows and grows and grows, and then it's like, well, it's time to mate. It will shoot up one enormous flower stalk, and it'll pass on its seeds, and then it dies. So this thing was like 40 feet tall. It was huge, like 30, 40 feet tall, and I saw it from the freeway, and it was out there, and there was no road over to it. It looked like it was by some old ruins, like an old kind of like pioneer settlement kind of thing is what it looked like. There's no road to it. And so I'm like, I'm just going to go out there. So I grabbed an axe and a saw, and I hopped the barbed wire fence, and I just started walking a half mile out there to it. Well, I get to it, I started seeing chickens, and I started to see that most of this old little pioneer town was the little pioneer settlement place was uninhabited, but it looked like, oh, there is somebody still living here in one of the houses. And so I went and asked, and I found this one kid, and I'm like, hey, I came from the freeway, wondering if I can cut down your agave stalk. And he's like, sure, let's go talk to my parents. And talked to his parents, and they spoke Spanish. He translated for me, and they were kind of confused at what I was doing, but said it was okay. So I went over, cut it down. This thing was huge. It's enormous. I hauled it all the way back. And this is a species that isn't native to my area, to Utah. This is more like something you'd find in Mexico. This thing was enormous. So I get it all the way to my truck. I'm like, okay, well, I can get several didgeridoos out of this. So I cut it down into like 4 or 5 pieces. Drove home, and then I made it into, the first didgeridoo I made, it was so big that there wasn't enough air in my lungs to play it. So I cut that piece off, and I made 3 didgeridoos, and I made that other big end into a drum. which was pretty cool. So this is a flower stalk, but a flower stalk of a species so big and robust that it's literally wood. So I made a drum, and I made these 3 didgeridoos. And so my friends and I, we would play them all together, and we'd call it the 3 sisters and the 1 brother. And so what I want to do is I want you to hear what 2 of these sound like being played together. It's kind of fun to hear because it's kind of different that you have one plant that has made this many enormous musical instruments. So kind of a fun story. Let's go ahead and hear what it sounds like. Well, I hope you enjoy hearing that tale of Ben Woodruff going to Arizona, harvesting a giant agave stalk and making the 3 sisters and the 1 brother. And I hope you enjoyed hearing some of that music. Again, we like to play this when we go out to the deserts. We love to play didgeridoos, Native American flutes in these beautiful red rock canyons and hear the echoes. It sounds wonderful. It sounds amazing, and hope you enjoyed that. It's amazing what you can make out of things. With your own tactile hands, you can carve and sculpt and make beautiful things out of the natural world. So thank you for coming along on this journey and hearing this story. And always remember that life is a gift. So never stop learning and never stop exploring. We'll see you next time.